All right, guys, it's Jover. We're saying bye to Biden. Kamala is stepping in. She literally fell out of a coconut tree into the presidency. Kamala is brat. These are all the things we're going to be talking about today. Y'all, I've been keeping my finger on the pulse of this story as this has been coming out. Joe Biden steps down. Kamala steps up. Everybody's talking about it. Is it really going to be her? Is somebody else going to put their name in the hat and come up in the running for the Democrat nominee for presidency? All these things and more we're going to talk about on the show today. It's been a crazy couple of weeks, guys. From assassination attempts to Biden stepping down to figuring out who the Democratic nominee is going to be to just debating whether or not we need to continue any of this at all. I'm right here through the existential crisis that we're all collectively experiencing, and hopefully we will get a little bit of clarity in today's show in talking about our views on the young and spry Kamala Harris and how she would do as this nation's next president. But before we go there, of course, we have Taylor in Nashville.
I'm just wondering how you're doing because the Kamala, Amala, Mamala jokes just got a lot more real. Just VP, it's kind of like, okay, whatever, no one cares about that. Now we're talking about a president, Mamala, when you share the name and all that. I mean,
dude,
that's intense. Right?
It is very intense. It is too real. This is somebody that I don't want to share names with. I got to be totally honest with you. And I do not want to be referred to as Mamala for the next 4 years. So please, pretty please, for that reason alone, but for many more, do not make this woman the presidential nominee. Oh my goodness, guys. But yeah, that's the world we're living in. We're happy to have you here. Let's go ahead and start off with a little bit of positivity before we dip into the negativity on this one. Well, we did get Joe Biden dropping out of this presidential race. Many speculated that this was going to take place on Sunday, and it indeed did. Not with Biden really addressing the American public live on air on any sort of news station, CNN, MSNBC, ABC. Not that we got any coverage of him just directly telling us what's going on. We got a letter posted all over the internet to let us know that Biden would be stepping down. We're going to read some of that letter right now so that we can all experience it together. He says, "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in my best interest, in the best interest of the party and the country, for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all of those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work, and let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have. There is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America." Signed, Joe Biden. I don't know who held his hand to sign this letter, but somebody did, because that man most certainly did not write this. One of the many aides who has been writing and penning his tweets on X is probably responsible for the writing of this letter. Maybe even Jill Biden, or should we say Dr. Joe Biden is responsible for writing this one. We've been hearing that Joe Biden is sick with COVID. Some people are speculating and saying that's not actually the case, and that that COVID diagnosis came in perfect timing for him to release this statement in a letter and not address the American people. The last time we saw Joe Biden was 5 days ago? And he was very unsteadily walking down some steps to get to where he was going, and we haven't seen him since. You would think, with the biggest announcement of his political career, that he is going to be stepping down after this final term, he would at least address the American people head on to tell us that that was the news, but he hasn't done so. Instead, he says he will do so at some point this week. I don't know what's going on, y'all, but something's going on. People are going real far. Like, some people are saying, he's gone, he's already passed away, and somebody wrote this letter, and we're beyond Weekend at Bernie's at this point, and he's not going to address us in a week to let us know what's going on. I don't know. That sounds like a lot. I wouldn't put it past him, but that sounds like a lot. We'll see when we get addressed by Joe Biden what state he's in. It could very well be that he has COVID, although Donald Trump, your other presidential candidate, is hopping on, I believe, Truth Social and saying he doesn't believe at all. There ain't no way in hell Joe Biden actually has COVID. Now, where he's getting that information from, I don't know. But that's where we are. And we all thought this was going to happen, but we didn't know what was going to happen after that. Who was going to be the person who received the brilliant, cognitively bright endorsement of Joe Biden. And it's in fact his vice president, Kamala Harris. She's received his endorsement, and now everybody's on the Kamala train, okay? Everybody's on it, which is so strange because for a very long time, nobody's really liked that woman. Let's be a little honest. Nobody on the right, nobody on the left, really. Nobody in the center was vibing or rocking with Kamala Harris. And now all of a sudden she's mama of the country, okay? I'm seeing tweet after tweet about how amazing this woman is. She's gonna crush Donald Trump in a debate. She really holds her own ground. She's tough, she's enlightened, she's brave. Be so for real right now. In the many lies that we've been told, all across the board, this one is up there, okay? Because we all know that Kamala Harris she's not really any of those things. This is not really to knock her all that much, although she's in a position that she shouldn't be in, and she probably got that position in ways that she shouldn't have. Let's just be honest with ourselves, okay? And I want to implore Democrats and left-leaning people to also be honest with yourselves. Had you had the choice to actually choose the candidate that was going to represent you, would it have been Ms. Harris? Come on now. Come on now. You got some other people, running around. And I think had there actually been a real primary to pick the candidate who was going to represent you guys, it probably would not have been Kamala. And it probably wouldn't have been Joe Biden. But who stole that opportunity from you? The Democrats, which is so funny because they've been telling us, on the other end of things, everybody who really exists outside of their realm, that they were like a threat to democracy, and specifically MAGA Republicans, for all of you out there listening. You guys are a threat to democracy. Meanwhile, if you're a Democrat right now, you didn't even get to pick the candidate who's going to be representing you. Now, we don't know that it's going to be Kamala just yet. There's still time for things to change. Some people are even saying we might get a Michelle Obama in the mix, and she might come through and take the cake right from Kamala as she's screaming, "We did it, Joe!" Okay? And if that happens, is it going to be a crazy election? Imagine Michelle Obama versus Donald Trump. I don't know what to think of that. I don't know what to make of it. If it was Harris, Trump, I'm thinking, okay, Trump's got a good deal here. If she wins against him, I don't know what to say. I'll see myself out, okay? But Michelle Obama, it's a little bit tough. She's got some charisma points. She's coming on the heels of Barack Obama's presidency, which even with all its failings and many things done wrong, people generally really like Obama because of the way he speaks, the way he presents himself. So she would have a lot going for her. There's many ways in which this situation could play out. But right now, everybody's looking to the mamala of the country, and it's Kamala Harris. Oh gosh, I just keep thinking, on the show, how can the news get crazier? How can things change? What's up next? And every time, it's a little bit more shocking than the last. And we're on the heels of an assassination attempt. It's crickets. Nobody's even talking about it anymore. Nobody even cares anymore. Even with the actual head of the Secret Service being questioned, some of the videos are going viral, popping up. Everybody's talking more about this than they are about that. So we're going to do a little bit of both today. We're going to start off with Kamala Harris, though, and go through all that, since that's a pretty big bit of news. Taylor, are you excited to see her be mamala of the country?
So excited. So excited. We asked you guys, will Kamala be the Democrat nominee? Only 65% of you are saying yes, while 35% no. So people holding out in skepticism. I did see, Vivek, even yesterday, who called that this would happen about a year ago. He was on the news again yesterday saying that Kamala would not be the nominee, and he suspects that it will be Michelle Obama. But all signs increasingly are pointing to that. Barack Obama did withhold his endorsement from Kamala, but now even all of her opponents or would-be opponents for the nomination, like Gretchen Whitmer, Gavin Newsom, they're coming out in droves. Even Nancy Pelosi, AOC, are endorsing her candidacy. And for all intents and purposes, it appears that she is the presumptive nominee. But this year, I'll believe it when I see it. We have to actually get on the other side of the Democratic National Convention and see what the heck happens. I wouldn't put anything out of reach at this point. And then after that, we have the general election. So it's just like a buckle up year, man. We are totally drinking from a fire hose in terms of absolutely crazy and historic headlines, and I don't see it letting up anytime soon.
Yeah, and it's funnily enough, as much as we speculated, okay, this is going to happen, a lot of people, I guess, internally in the Biden campaign and administration had no idea that this was going to take place. Aides are saying, quote, "We are all finding this out by tweet." None of us understand what's happening. So when we found out on Sunday that this was taking place, they also found out on Sunday that this was taking place, which is just crazy. But it does make sense because we've been hearing all this time, I'm staying in the race, I'm steadfast in my resolve to be a president of the United States yet again and to beat Donald Trump. But mixing that with his performance at the debate, with 3.5 years of cognitive decline that we've witnessed with our own eyes, plus just an even steeper decline on the end of that debate that everybody was seeing, they were laying out the carpet for him to walk out. Let's be honest. After that debate, they started putting him front and center, had him doing interviews with George Stephanopoulos, trying to defend himself, to talk about how bad his performance was. And for once, the media directly asked him about whether or not he could pass cognitive testing, to which he responded, "Every day is a cognitive test for me as I run this country." Now, it begs the question, if Biden is deciding not to run for re-election, how is it that he still gets to be president right now? If the general consensus is you are not cognitively fit enough to be the next president and be the 47th, why is it that you get to be president right now? And I guess what they're going to say is, oh, well, right now I'm good. I'm just anticipating that in the future, I'll be a little bit too old, or that there are better candidates and I'm going to do the brave thing and fall on my sword for my party and do what's best for my party and for my country. But the reality is he's not fit to be president. He does not even know that he wrote that letter, let alone who did. And if he doesn't know those things, if he's not fit to be the 47th president, he's not fit to be president right now. And we still have no idea where this man is or what he's doing. So, I don't know.
There was a tweet still coming out of Biden's account today, just about, random political stuff or whatever, but of course, very worded in such a way as to indicate that it was definitely like intern or staffers or whatever. And one of the popular meme accounts, it's Greg and a bunch of numbers, responded and was like, "Mr. President, are you aware that you stepped aside from the nomination yesterday?" It's like, that is the level. And everybody knows it. It's like the worst kept secret that Biden isn't really running things, hasn't been running things. I think his handlers probably are glad that they have the pretense of this, bout with COVID to not have to answer for why he's not physically there for a little while. But yeah, I mean, he's been out of it for some time, and it is rich to suddenly see the media very much aware of this.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then the copium that we have pulled up here of people who are tweeting out about the president knowing what's going on right now. Let's read this one from Ezra Klein that says, "An actual hero. This is what America First looks like when it's a lived ethos, rather than a mask for narcissism and ambition." It's some very brave thing that Biden stepped down. Let's rephrase. It was probably forced to step down, as he probably doesn't know what's going on. I imagine they just gave him the best day of his life on the day that they announced him. They took him to the pool where the kids could rub on his leg hairs. Wasn't that the story that he told? They gave him some chocolate chip ice cream to eat, and they set it in front of him, and they said, "Today you can have the full tub." And then they're like, "Do you want to go sniff a random child at a park, Joe?" And he got up and he clapped and he was so excited. And then they went and did that. And then they announced to him, on, you know, this bestest day of his life because he's the bestest, goodest president that we've ever had, and he's answered everybody's questions for 3.5 years, that he's no longer going to be running for re-election. Like, that's how I picture it going. And you know what? I feel bad because he's clearly not in a state to be serving this country and hasn't been for a long time. So I still don't know why he is the sitting president right now. But I digress. I guess we must forge ahead and push on. Other people are saying
I got to point out, it was National Ice Cream Day when they broke the news to him that he would no longer be running. So maybe that was the spoonful of sugar that let the medicine go down.
I feel like every day is just some random day. I think I saw a tweet today that said today's National Mango Day. Who's coming up with this stuff? Who's approving it? And who is responsible for making all of these different days? Because we
National
just need to talk.
Jail Day, if you name something a National Day of something.
National Jail Day, absolutely. Here's another one. This is from Joe Walsh. It says, Joe Biden just did something that Donald Trump is humanly incapable of doing. He put his country first. Oh my goodness, that's what Biden has been doing this whole time. He's been putting his country first. Another one from Ben Rhodes here says, just like that, Americans see something transformational. A leader putting his country ahead of any personal interest or ambition. A seismic jolt of energy that raises the bar on all of us to get out there and do whatever it takes to win this election. Yo, the amount of stretching these people are doing, they might as well be gymnasts. The amount of flipping, y'all are Simone Biles. It's crazy that after all this, we don't have somebody going, wait a damn minute. Somebody lied to me. Wait a damn minute. Was he fit to be president this whole time? Wait a damn minute. Should he even been running the first time that we elected him? Wait a damn minute. Did somebody lie to me and trick me? And now we're dealing with a senile president. And now we're dealing with the fact that we're not actually getting to pick the candidate that represents our party. Did our party pull the wool over our eyes like they've been doing for I don't even know how long at this point? Why is nobody waking up to that? Come on, y'all. There's got to be somebody who is feeling the deceit that lies in the depths of these tweets, because they're all just coming together to push this new narrative. Oh, Biden is so brave. This is stunning and brave. This is such an amazing thing that that he's done. He's really putting America first. Why wasn't he putting America first 3.5 years ago when he knew that he was dealing with this? Or at least his family knew that he was dealing with this. His administration knew that he was dealing with this. Mind you, these people have been working with him day in and day out, so they know what he's like. They've been witnessing this. But now we're all just comfortable talking about it. You must remember that. And I think this is what somebody tweeted out, Michael Schellenberger, you know, friend of the show. This is the third time that the Democrats have done this and robbed actual Democrats of being able to choose a candidate of their liking. And we'll go ahead and spell this out. So they said the first time this occurred was in 2016 when the Democratic National Committee manipulated money and process to help Hillary Clinton defeat Bernie Sanders. You all remember that? Bernie Sanders was a really strong candidate who was just getting funding from the American people in pretty small donations. The second time was in 2020 when the party elites pushed out Pete Buttigieg and Amy Klobuchar so that Elizabeth Warren could split the progressive vote with Sanders, creating a path to victory for Biden. And now Biden has fallen on the sword and done the same so that they can usher forward Kamala Harris or Michelle Obama or whoever it's going to be, maybe even Gavin Newsom, I say, as I sit in California, a state where when I just walked out of my apartment the other day, there was a naked woman just lying on the sidewalk there yelling at herself. So 3 times, you know, fool me once, fool me twice, but fool me 3 times. What's going on here, guys? This is suspicious. And now we actually have the you just fell out of a coconut tree candidate in Kamala Harris, which it's going to be even crazier if people are backing her. She's getting all these endorsements from like AOC and Schiff, not Obama, but virtually everybody else. And they go in a different direction. I guess we're going to see what happens there. But let's go over who Kamala Harris actually is before we get into those endorsements. And yes, I am going to talk about Charli XCX. I see you guys commenting that we need to talk about whether or not Kamala is so brat. And I have so many thoughts on this, especially since I've been banging the Brat album since it came out. I'm perturbed. I'm off-put. I am not flabbergasted. I'm not surprised by this. But I am irked by the decision of Charli XCX to go ahead and endorse her in this way. But let's take it back, okay? Talk about Kamala Harris. A lot of people are saying the conservatives don't have anything to say about Kamala Harris. You know, even independents and all these people in the center who maybe don't want to vote for her, they don't have anything to criticize her for. It's just the cackle. They just don't like who she is. They don't like that she's a woman. They're saying that we don't like that she's black, even though that's questionable. It's like when Meghan Markle says that the royal family doesn't like that I'm black. It's like, oh, okay. How much blackness can you really lean on with your background and your ethnicity and, you know, everything that's going on there? I don't know that that's actually the case. And it's going to be even less so the case if Michelle Obama ends up putting her name in the hat and receives a mountain of support, as we know she would if she were to run. So they're pulling all the regular cards, the woman card, the race card, the cackle card, which Kamala has clearly tamped down. If you're watching her speak recently, she's trying not to cackle. And I don't know if it's because her PR team has caught on to the fact that people really don't like it, but she's not cackling these days anymore. It's probably because there's nothing funny to joke about, you know? She's got to put her game face on. She can't keep talking about Venn diagrams. She can't keep cackling. She might keep saying, you know, what can be unburdened by what has been. But there's no more you fell out of a coconut tree moments. Even though that's apparently very popular among Gen Z, and it's a trending TikTok sound, and everybody's editing it into all of their most iconic pop songs. But let's put all that aside, all the jokes that you can make about Kamala Harris, which we will discuss how that makes her look on the world stage in a moment. But let's talk about how she feels about things. In 2020, we witnessed months of riots in the streets here in the United States in the name of Black Lives Matter, in the name of George Floyd. Now, you'd think if you were an up-and-coming politician making your way out on the scene, especially if you're a former prosecutor, DA, you would be looking at things like setting police stations on fire, people taking to the streets to destroy cars, businesses, actually taking Black lives in the name of Black Lives Matter. Over 20 people died during the riots, the BLM mostly peaceful protests, instead of doing what you would think, you know, a smart person would do, which is denounce all of this and say people need to stop. And in fact, we need to do whatever we can to make these crimes stop. She said it's going to keep going, and it should keep going. Let's hear it from her.
Clear that I know that there are protests still happening in major cities across the United States. I'm just not seeing the reporting on it that I had
that's right.
for the first few weeks.
That's right. But they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. And they're not, this is a movement, I'm telling you. They're not going to stop. And everyone beware, because they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop before Election Day in November, and they're not going to stop after Election Day. And that should be, everyone should take note of that on both levels, that they're not going to let up, and they should not. And we should not.
Clear.
They're not going to let up, and they should not. And we should not. Now, juxtapose that with the talk about January 6th and how Trump is a massive insurrectionist for telling people that they should go and protest peacefully, is what they said. Let's compare these two things. Trump tells a group of people to protest peacefully. On the other end, you get the left, who is taking to the streets for BLM riots. They're burning down police stations, breaking up cars, burning down businesses, looting stores, killing people, going into government buildings. Looks an awful lot like an insurrection, or at least what we call them these days when we just flippantly throw around the word. And instead of encouraging them to be peaceful, they say, keep going, put it on the news, and label it as peaceful. Interesting. Yet we heard about January 6th for who knows how long, but yet we have Kamala Harris here actively promoting that people go and riot in the streets and that they should continue. We should continue. Might as well get in on it, I guess, says the former prosecutor. Insanity, guys. So no, it's not just the cackle. She has got a lot more going on. She's actively calling for the destruction of America if you don't like what's going on. If you have a qualm or issue with the way the system is set up, or if you had a problem with George Floyd, take to the streets and do exactly what the BLM rioters did, because they had every right to do that. And you'll think, on the other end of this, if you can somehow interpret this charitably, oh, well, it just means that Kamala cares about Black lives. She cares about Black people. She wants to save Black lives. George Floyd, deserved to keep his life, and it was a heinous thing that happened at the hand of that police officer. And Kamala Harris wants to make it right by burning down buildings and killing people and looting businesses and ruining Black-owned businesses in the name of Black lives. She truly cares about Black people. Let's go to this clip of her in a debate with Tulsi Gabbard when she was in this presidential debate for the Democrats. And let's hear about how Kamala Harris handles Black lives, handles crime within the Black community.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting Black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
Let's ask ourselves what the race of those people were.
She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place that impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
What kind of poor people? Pull up the demographics. Pull up the stats. Let's see who that affects. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a real strong, sturdy limb here and say that it's Black people. I'm going to say that it's Black lives. And I think Kamala Harris flip-flops on her position whenever she needs to in whatever way benefits her. And there's actually like these huge graphs you can go check out of like a picture of Kamala Harris's face. But if you zoom in, it's made up of all the different Black people that she's like incarcerated. And, in a way, it's understandable. You're a prosecutor. Your job is to prosecute. Your job is to take people who have committed crimes and put them away for those crimes and seek justice on behalf of victims, on behalf of those affected, on behalf of the community. Understandable. If we are to, go into Tulsi Gabbard's claims that she actually withheld evidence that would have exonerated somebody who was innocent of a crime, we have a whole different story there, because it's no longer about just simply doing your job, because your job is to seek justice. If you're holding back evidence from somebody who should be exonerated, it's taking on a different form. And she's not really owned up or taken accountability for all these people that she's jailed, even though now she takes a very strong stance on the fact that nobody should be in jail for marijuana possession. So why not take a little bit of accountability for that? And that's not to say that she shouldn't have done her job at the time or nobody deserved to go to jail for the time, but just talk about it and be honest about it. But it's not the politicians' way to be honest about those things. It's their way to deflect and to move on, as she did in that debate with Tulsi Gabbard. So there's just a little bit there about Kamala Harris on one particular issue. She's also super into equity rather than equality, which we all know what that means. It doesn't mean that anything better is going to really happen for this country. It just means that we're going to cut everybody off to where we're all the same height. Everybody can be poor together. Everybody can be downtrodden together. And she actually talks about exactly that, although she doesn't know that that's what she's admitted in this clip, when she discusses the difference between equality and equity.
So there's a big difference between equality and equity. Equality suggests, everyone should get the same amount. The problem with that, not everybody's starting out from the same place. So if we're all getting the same amount, but you started out back there and I started out over here, we could get the same amount, but you're still gonna be that far back behind me. It's about giving people the resources and the support they need so that everyone can be on equal footing and then compete on equal footing.
She should have paused there and been like, you know what I had to do? As a woman, I had to sleep my way up to the vice presidency. I shouldn't have had done that. I should have been placed there. That's what equity is. You know, equality is about having equal opportunity to make it places, and equity is about being placed there on the even playing field. And that's what should have happened to me. I shouldn't have had to be in a relationship with somebody who was 30 years my senior in order to get to where I am today. But I did. And you know what? I did what I had to do. And that's equality being exercised. And I want equity. In fact, I want equity now.
Equitable treatment means we all end up at the same place.
I love that. Equitable treatment means we all end up at the same place. And then it shows Biden-Harris, which is a place she should not have ever been, but she was placed there in the name of equity. So you gotta love that. That is quite the advertisement for equity. And now everybody, because of equity, has to deal with the possibility of Kamala Harris being the 47th president. What a shame. I'm leaning towards this is not going to happen and she's not going to be the candidate, but what a shame for women. Like in the winds of like feminism and progress and women's rights that Kamala Harris, that is even being speculated that she could be the first female president of the United States. What a waste. What a waste for womanhood. This is not day one of girlhood. Actually, it is. It's as farcical as what that was. It is day one of girlhood if Kamala Harris ends up being the 47th president of the United States. Oh, goodness.
It's interesting, too, because people point to her many, gaffes and kind of cringeworthy moments. And often her defenders will say, you don't have anything of substance. But there's a lot of substance there. And really, part of that substance is the fact that she is a very radical ideologue when it comes to her politics. Her dad famously is a Marxist professor at Stanford, an economist. We know how she feels about equity. That's a very far left position that you posit equality of outcome as the ideal. Even this refrain that she keeps saying of, what can be unburdened by what has been, it's kind of a Marxist saying of, we need to look to this utopian future and leave behind the baggage of the past, the baggage of white supremacy, the baggage of colonialism. It's very much a Marxist kind of framing of things. She's bailing out violent protesters and supporting that and promoting anarchy. She's the queen of intersectionality, and she's got these soft on crime policies that she's supported and fostering anarchy in her own under her own purview and in her neighborhood. So she's very much a radical when it comes to policy and when it comes to ideology. And in no way, it'll be interesting to see them try to position her as a moderate or someone with wide appeal when that was kind of more Biden's shtick, was to be this, unthreatening Sleepy Joe, really just, hardworking. I go with the picket lines for the workers and all this stuff. And Kamala was the intersectional pick and then the bone to the radicals. And now she's front and center because of intersectionality, as you point out. But with that comes her ideology. And it'll be interesting to see if she tries to distance herself from that or what she'll do, because I don't know how you overcome that.
Right. There's a lot of questions at play here. And a lot of what we were talking about with Joe Biden was this lack of fierceness. Like, nobody's intimidated by Joe Biden. Imagine you're the leader of the Taliban and you have a meeting with the U.S. president and you walk into a room and Joe Biden sits across from you. He waddles across to sit next to you with his mouth agape, forgets that you're there, walks off. This is the sort of stuff that people are dealing with now with him being the sitting president, if he's even having meetings, which most of the time he's not. Swap out Kamala Harris for that and ask, does that get any better? Is she fierce? Is she intimidating? Is she to be respected on the world stage? Do you think Putin and Kim Jong-un are like, oh my gosh, quaking in my boots to go meet Kamala Harris, to go sit across from her? Now, you know what? Even if it was Hillary Clinton, at least I'm like, am I going to be alive at the end of this meeting? She's got a little bit of a history here. She's got a name for herself out on the street. There's a little bit of like a street reputation to Hillary Clinton where I'm like, okay, maybe I might fear for my life a little bit sitting across from that woman. But Kamala Harris, be so for real right now. You imagine her sitting across from Vladimir Putin saying, you think you just fell out of a coconut tree? I can't.
Cackle, cackle.
Cackle,
Yeah.
cackle. Giggle, giggle. And obviously this is just a feeling, right? People give us like an energy, a vibe, and you can, use that to make whatever inference you want to make. But there's actual stories to back this up. And I know a lot of training goes into, political candidacy, and politicians are often, running the speeches, and they're running their talking points and all these different things. But here's a story, and this was posted on Axios here. It says in April 2022, Harris was the guest for a dinner at DC news mogul David Bradley's home, a salon-style event Bradley hosts with Washington journalists and newsmakers. Bullet 1. Harris's anxiety about the dinner was such that her staff held a mock dinner beforehand, with staffers playing participants, according to 2 people familiar with the event. Harris's aides even considered including wine in her mock prep so Harris could practice with a glass or 2. They ultimately decided against it. Now, this was to meet with a news mogul and, some people at a nice little salon-style event, and she had to do a mock dinner for that. Switch it out for the leader of the Taliban. Switch it out for Putin. Switch it out for Kim Jong-un. Switch it out for anybody of note. And the idea that this is happening behind the scenes, nobody's scared of her. Come on. She's not intimidating. I don't think you look at her and think like, this is this person's up there. They're pedestalized in my view, and I'm looking up at them in any way, shape, or form when it comes to her. And this is just a matter of public image. And being the president is largely about public image. A lot of people don't even know half the stuff that Obama did during his presidency, but they know about his public image, which is why actually Michelle Obama becomes such a strong candidate in the wake of him, because they attribute his sort of strength, charisma, and character to her without her having to really do much at all. So does Kamala Harris have that? Really ask yourselves that. And for a long time, we've all decided, everybody, left, right, and center, decided no, she didn't have it. And that we were all confused as to why she was even vice president in the first place. But all of a sudden, everybody's saying she's bright and strong and powerful and intimidating and the future is female. Ask yourselves why. They are lying. They're not telling you the truth. Mock dinners. I get it. We all have to practice some things. But did that deserve a mock dinner? I don't know how many mock dinners Donald Trump is doing. Just, we can figure that out. We can go and ask him, and I'm sure he'll answer, and answer honestly. I'm not sure we'll get such an honest answer from Miss Harris, and yet she maintains all of these endorsements. And let's talk about these endorsements, which is interesting because we don't know what's going on. Barack Obama has not endorsed Kamala Harris, but Barack Obama also did not endorse Biden for this presidential term. So could be nothing, but could also be that he's going to send in Michelle Obama to try and take the cake from Kamala Harris, but he withholds his endorsement. And it's probably because he knew all along that Joe was not fit to serve. And he knows for damn sure that Kamala's not fit to serve. But I digress. AOC gives an endorsement. Pete Buttigieg gives an endorsement. Many are speculating that if Kamala Harris becomes the presidential nominee, he will become her vice president because she's going to need some sort of plain, interesting white man to help her out there. And he also has the gay card. So I guess that helps him a bit. And we can stack our intersectional voting points on top of one another. But Pete says Kamala Harris is now the right person to take up the torch, defeat Donald Trump, and succeed Joe Biden as president. Succeed. I have seen her extraordinary leadership firsthand, working closely with her during the 2020 campaign, and then in the historically effective Biden-Harris administration. I will do all that I can to help her win this election, to lead America forward as our next president. So there we have Pete. Gavin Newsom says tough, fearless, tenacious. With our democracy at stake and our future on the line, no one is better to prosecute the case against Donald Trump's dark vision and guide our country in a healthier direction than America's Vice President, Kamala Harris. See that little play on words with prosecute? He should have put in parentheses, like she did all those black men that she put in prison. Oh, my goodness.
It's killing Newsom to have to issue a statement like that, too. Like, he doesn't 100%. Believe a word he's saying. He wants to be the nominee so bad. It's all he cares about. But he's just got to do it.
He's like, after I got these presidential veneers, She's taking my spot. I don't actually know that Gavin Newsom has veneers. He just looks like he does. That was speculative. I don't know if that's true. Nancy Pelosi also endorses Kamala Harris and says, today it is with immense pride and limitless optimism for our country's future that I endorse Vice President Kamala Harris for President of the United States. My enthusiastic support for Kamala Harris for President is official, personal, and political. We also have Gretchen Whitmer, who gives her endorsement to Kamala Harris. So they're all stacking it and throwing it out. And I don't know that they're throwing out knowing that she's actually going to be the nominee, or if they're just, thinking that she's going to be the nominee, which is the natural choice in this case. We'll see. I'm guessing it's since we got Newsom's. A lot of people were speculating it was going to be Newsom. We got his endorsement. Probably not. The people we have had silence from, Obama and Michelle. So who knows? Who knows? Could be that. I don't know. Michelle would have a strong case, a strong chance, which is just crazy to me because when I think about it, I'm like, okay, Michelle Obama. She was just married to she was married to President Barack Obama. I guess that's her main set of experience in the political sphere, and the association from that is really going to carry her a long way. I remember when I was young, everybody said Michelle Obama's the most educated black woman in America. And I don't remember where that actually came from, but it was a rumor that just continued and continued and continued and became her reputation. I don't think that's true. I don't think she's the most
Jill would like a word.
I don't think she's the most educated woman in America. But that would be an interesting run to see Donald Trump and Michelle Obama go head to head.
I got to say, the Obamas notwithstanding, it is interesting to watch the suddenness with which all of these Democrat and left-leaning media people and candidates and governors and the powers that be are all very much united and coalesced. And I'll hand it to the left. They are generally probably better at marching to the beat of the same drum and really unifying and coalescing around specific marching orders when they have them. But I think it's really been interesting in those few weeks where nobody knew what to do. Should we try to continue to prop up Biden? I'm ready to do that. Do we need to dump Biden and leave him behind? I'm ready to do that. But there was just chaos because there was internal conflict and there's dissonance between the media and the Biden administration and the Democratic elites, powers that be. And now you're starting to see everything kind of line back up and everyone's all of a sudden Kamala's the greatest thing ever. She's never done anything wrong. We always supported this, and Joe's a hero, and the narrative has written. I feel like on the left, everyone's kind of breathing a sigh of relief because they know how to suck up, they know how to structure their messaging, they know what the proper course of action and how to behave is once again. And now the machine's gonna be aligned behind him. And I think it's also been Vivek who's been saying you're not running against a candidate, you're not running against a person, you're running against a machine. And that is formidable. And I think on the right, people are already taking victory laps because they're like, oh yeah, Joe's toast and Kamala's a bad candidate. And, the assassination attempt, that's going to put us over the edge. And I think it's wise when you're hearing other Republicans or people on the right saying, hold your horses. This is a very powerful machine. We've seen what they're capable of. They've been able to rig their own primaries 3 elections in a row. Evidently, they've been able to do all kinds of stuff with the prior election. And you cannot count any chickens before they hatch, let's say. So anyway, I just thought it was really interesting about how quickly the so-called marching orders, I think, was it Mark Ruffalo, the actor, even said, all right, guys, we have our marching orders now. Let's do this. Just saying the quiet part out loud there.
100%. Yeah, you can tell everything is strategic. All these announcements have been strategic. Everything has been coming out very, very much in line with some sort of plan. We're just not all privy to what that plan is. Now, with Kamala Harris being speculated to be the Democratic nominee, we've been getting some interesting endorsements from outside of the political realm, and one of those is from Charli XCX. She's a pop singer, very iconic within the pop, electro, dance scene, the club scene. She's been in the music industry for quite some time, constantly growing, changing, evolving, and most recently put out what was a smash hit album titled Brat. And this whole Brat thing has been taking over all the radio waves. Everybody's listening to Brat. I was listening to Brat. It's a spectacular album from basically start to finish for me. I loved a lot of what she put in it. The artistry, the direction that she's going in her music, I think was fantastic. And quite honestly, a lot of bops on there. Love to dance to it. And, you know, I've had a fun time. It has been a Brat summer for me. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with Charli XCX and this album Brat, she's done a lot of marketing. It's like, you know, this green album cover with just lowercase Brat on it. And she's been saying that you're going to have a Brat summer with this. That's sort of the cultural moment that this iconic album has become. It's really popular, specifically among Gen Z and Gen Alpha. Everybody's having their Brat summer. Now, when the news about Kamala Harris and, you know, Joe Biden stepping down, all that stuff came out, Charli XCX decided to tweet this: Kamala is Brat. Now this has 278, see, it just went up as we were watching it, 278,000 likes on X. And this is tantamount to an endorsement. Of course, to be Brat, to be in your Brat summer is a positive thing for those of you who need the cultural translation, which I'm sure is many of you. So her tweeting out Kamala is Brat might seem like a nothingness, okay? But it is something. It is tantamount to an endorsement. She's essentially saying, vote for Kamala Harris. Now, Charli XCX is not American. She's in fact an English pop electro dance star. I don't know, whatever you want to call her genre of music, and a very talented one. But I would just urge her, you know, I don't think Kamala Harris is the one to endorse here. It's okay though. We saw this coming, okay? Charli XCX not only is, you know, a part of the music industry apparatus, even though she does actively criticize it, she's on this sort of artistry pipeline. And typically within the artistry pipeline, artists tend to lean left. It's just the case. They sort of experience higher creativity, openness to experience. That lends itself to more liberal, or shall I say, leftist viewpoints on things. So it's no surprise that she's endorsing Kamala Harris. She's very active within the Pride community, and she is sort of seen as a Pride figure on the pop scene and is loved amongst the LGBTQ crowd. So I'm not shocked at all, but I would just urge her, you know, some of these things might sound great, and it might sound like Kamala Harris is going to be this wonderful, progressive, strong woman candidate, but she's really not. She's not indeed. And I guess just on a fundamental level, and most definitely on a political level, Charli XCX and I disagree on the direction in which the world should go in. It is not a direction towards equity. It is the direction of equality that we should go towards. It's not the direction of race existentialism and focusing on race and talking about all these different racial narratives that supposedly exist in the United States, which I guess Charli has not experienced to the full extent. It's towards race neutrality. That's where we should be going. And as much as Charli XCX is this massive, you know, rep for the Pride community and the LGBTQ plus community, or at least they've taken her up as one. And, you know, she has her own personal ties to the LGBTQ community, including Sophie, a music producer who has since passed with a trans background, who I don't want to like invoke in this as some sort of argument, because that's somebody who is unfortunately no longer here to represent their views and talk about them. I just mean that to substantiate her relationship towards the LGBTQ plus community and some of her deeper relationships in that sense. I don't know that what the left is doing right now in terms of the LGBTQ policy and their attachment to the LGBTQ community, that they're actually doing things that are good for people, that they're actually doing things that are in fact good for trans people specifically. And I think you can be extremely accepting of LGBTQ plus people without supporting left-leaning policies that are actively harming human beings. And Kamala Harris is one of the supporters of those policies. She is one of the supporters of policies that are advocating that children be able to change their sex, that they undergo irreversible damage, irreversible medical treatments that will leave them lifelong medical patients. She's endorsing that. She's allowing that. She has invited people who are promoting that sort of ideology to the White House to speak with her, to speak with Joe. And yeah, you might call that brat. I don't know. Is that edgy, trendy, cool? Is that truly accepting when these children are growing up, changing their minds and realizing they've been duped into an identity that they no longer stand by? Is that brat? Is that what your brat summer looks like? And we can show it as being, so cool and awesome. And I say this as somebody who's been on the trend, who loves the album, who loves the idea of a brat summer. But when it comes down to the endorsement of a candidate, when, you have a substantial amount of young people who are looking to you and a substantial amount of young people who are struggling with their identities, that is really the most important part here. I don't know that like a frivolous endorsement of a candidate who's supporting these things is really the best thing in the world. But every celebrity has the right to do so. And they talk about celebrities that come out with conservative opinions, and I applaud them for it. Recently, Shailene Woodley reposted the statement of Melania Trump after Donald Trump went through his whole assassination attempt. She wrote a beautiful letter about unity and support and coming together as Americans. And Shailene Woodley, a very famous actress, decided to share that statement. Now, it wasn't a political endorsement of Trump or his presidency, but it might as well have been. It might as well have been within the realm of Hollywood because people are trying to eat her alive for that. I don't think that Charli XCX needs to be eaten alive. I don't think she needs to be canceled. I don't think she needs to be hated on for endorsing Kamala Harris. Every celebrity has their political opinions. They have the right to share them, and they have the right to endorse candidates for their audience and persuade their audience with the platform that they've built for themselves. And that's what Charli XCX is doing. All I want to do is just bring up questions. And is this the best endorsement? And are the broader things that are accepted with this endorsement actually acceptable? With somebody with a very impressionable young audience, many of whom struggle with their identity, many of whom are being introduced to the LGBTQ plus community through your music, through the people that you've been associated with. Is that the best thing that we can do? I don't know. I don't think so. But you have every right to think what you think, and you have every right to say that Kamala is brat. In fact, you are the definer of brat since you made the album Brat. So what I will say now is I once thought I was going to have a brat summer, but if this is what a brat summer means, I don't want a brat summer. I don't want a brat election cycle. I don't want a brat 47th president of the United States. And if that means I absolve myself of the brat title, I'm happy to do so right here and now. Still love you, Charli. Still think you're so talented. Love the album. Will continue to listen to the songs, even if for some reason you don't want me to. But this was not it for me. And that's it.
I'm going to be stuck having just a white boy summer, but thank you for the cultural translation there. Lord knows I need help with it. And I think it's interesting to hear it from you too, because you come from that place where you once supported a whole political movement kind of mindlessly that said all the right things and that sounded great and sounded like you were supporting marginalized groups and everything. But when you actually looked at how those effects translated into reality, it was negative for the people that they were purported to be helping. So I think hopefully Charli can learn a little bit from that. We did get a $50 super chat. I'm going to read real quick. Sorry, we took a minute, but I wanted to let Amala finish the Charli the compassionate appeal to common sense to Charli. But Jeff Rademaker says, hi, I haven't heard this talked about. I think the Democratic powers that be will put Kamala/Pete out there as sacrificial lambs because Democrats know they won't win, and to clear them out for new direction to win with someone else in 2028. What are your thoughts?
That's a very fair theory. I could see that happening if they know that this is not going to go in their direction because of everything that's happened thus far, the convictions of Donald Trump and the kangaroo court type of thing, the attempted assassination. If they've sort of already acknowledged this is a losing battle for them, maybe they put forth Kamala and Pete to sort of say, here you go. These are two people we don't really care about all that much, that they're not going to have very abundant political careers after this. I don't know, though, because in the wake of the announcement of Biden stepping down, Kamala Harris received, I think, over $80 million in fundraising through Act Blue, which is like, I think the same fundraising website that the actual attempted assassin of Donald Trump donated to way back when he was supporting Joe Biden. So it's a lot of money. It's a lot. I think that's some of the most money a presidential candidate has ever fundraised within such a short period of time. Now, what do we attribute that to? Is it really faith in Kamala Harris? Is it hate for Donald Trump? Is it just this unbelievable energy of what comes next after Joe Biden stepped down and excitement in that direction? I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see. Who knows if she's a sacrificial lamb or not? There could be a sort of negative outcome of thinking that she is one and just like sort of playing her down. Meanwhile, they've been probably training her up behind the scenes. As I've been saying, I've been watching her speaking and publicly. She's not cackling. She's not making any jokes anymore. She's really trying her best to shoot straight, whatever that looks like for her. And never set aside the amount of energy and time they will put into fooling you. So I'm sure she's been training for quite some time to do debates and all that fun stuff. We'll see, though. Good chance she's not the candidate. And that's my thoughts on that. We said before, they've been now interviewing publicly the director of the Secret Service, asking her questions about this colossal failure, as it was referred to by those representatives questioning her. And she's... I don't know what I would say. I think she's doing her best to sort of answer, but not coming up with a lot of answers here, as it's kind of difficult to come up with answers for such a colossal failure. You even had people like AOC asking her good questions and saying, if we know the distance that an AR-15 can shoot, which was the rifle used in this case, why wouldn't the Secret Service set up a strong secured perimeter that is about that distance, knowing that it's a pretty popular firearm to use in these cases? Now, many were saying, oh, well, AOC is just trying to make a leftist point in here by saying AR-15s are these popular assault rifles, but it's a valid question. Why was the perimeter not set up and secured for Trump to be safe, given an instance like this happening? We'll show a few clips, or a short clip here, of her being questioned by Rep. Nancy Mace, and this one's going viral currently. Let me get it in full screen for you guys.
Most of my questions are going to demand a yes or no answer. Do you understand?
I do.
Okay, my first question. Both sides of the aisle today have asked for your resignation. Would you like to use my 5 minutes to draft your resignation letter, yes or no?
No, thank you.
No. Was this a colossal failure?
It was a failure.
Yes or no? Was it a colossal failure is the question. Yes or no?
I have admitted this is a terrible...
This is a yes or no series of questions. Was this a colossal failure? Yes or no?
Yes.
Was this tragedy preventable? Yes or no?
Yes.
Has the Secret Service been transparent with this committee?
Yes.
Would you say the fact that we had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today as being transparent? Yes or no?
I have always been
yes or no. You didn't want to answer the question.
Committee.
We had to issue a subpoena to get you to show up today. That is not transparent, by the way. You stated earlier, Secret Service is not political. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say leaking your opening statement to Punchbowl News, Politico's Playbook, and Washington Post several hours before you sent it to this committee as being political? Yes or no?
I have no idea how my statement got out.
And it's just hours and hours and hours of this. Of course, there's part of me that's like, okay, yeah, you majorly effed up here as the director. That's your problem. But this is also like a public flogging that she's just going through for hours and hours and hours. When I do believe this was a multi-person failure, and we do have this tendency of like, something awful happens or something we don't like, or, a colossal failure as this has been referred to takes place, and we just dial it all in on one person as if it's not like a multi-structural issue. So yeah, she deserves her day to sort of go through all the questioning and hopefully come to some conclusions here. Although I'm sure she's been thoroughly briefed on what she can and cannot say and what she should and should not do. And if she's not resigning, it's not because any sort of personal choice on her part. I'm pretty sure she's being directly told from somewhere much higher up what she needs to be doing in this case, how she needs to be answering. This just not just happen out in the open with full transparency and nobody pulling strings and making sure that she's not saying every single word is exactly how she should be saying it. And as a Secret Service director, she would know that. I don't think she goes into any situation without being fully briefed within a direct strategy of how things are going to play out. But I guess that just happened to happen on the day that Trump was at that rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. So are we ever going to get the true lowdown on how much of an F up this actually is, how intentional or unintentional that F up was? Probably not. Okay. And yeah, who knows who's actually giving her the words that she's supposed to be saying in this hearing, but I don't think it's her, to be honest.
So sketchy. I see somebody in the chat saying Taylor's looking for extreme ownership, like Jocko says. You know that's my attitude with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think two things can be true at once. Like the people who are kind of making much of their opportunity to take it to the Secret Service director. Of course, you stand to gain like a little bit of prominence from being the one who really takes it to her and whatnot. But at the same time, she is asking for it. By any like objective analysis, you should not have your job anymore if you're the director of the Secret Service, and the team that you preside over and the buck stops with you allows the president to be struck by a bullet under your watch. The only thing possibly worse that you could be at your job was that the president is killed, which is your one job, not to, or the ex-president, I should say, that would be the only worst failure. But this is effectively just as bad because it was only through dumb luck that the president turned his head at just the right time so as to dodge the bullet. So right. Yeah, she should not be in her job anymore. And in some sense, she deserves the quote unquote flogging metaphorically that she's getting right now by being so obtuse. But it's also like you can see some people are just really trying to take advantage of the moment for themselves, which is, whatever, it's politics.
Yeah, I do want to know like how these things work. Like if we know the Secret Service is going to be at a rally on this day, like who exactly, like down to crossed T's and dotted I's, is in charge of stationing all the agents, letting them know what their actual job is going to be, where they're going to be, at what time. I would love to hear more about that, and I'll have to go through and watch more of the hearing to see how deeply they go into those subject matters. But wow, what a mess up. I just don't. It's so much of a mess up that when you're watching it, it's like, this cannot be by accident. This cannot be ignorance that causes, like, it almost like, if you want conspiracy theories to exist, let things go the way they went on that day. Because, but I digress. Ignorance is always a key contender when stuff like this happens. And my gosh, was that most definitely at play on that day. And yeah, she does deserve a lot of what she's experiencing right now, and all of the questions in the world, hours and hours of questions until they feel as though they've got down to the root of the problem. Because one, massive failure, but two, a failure that cannot exist again. So they need to explore and exhaust all options and all evidence and all of their sort of standard operating procedures to figure out how this was able to take place in the first place. Now, speaking of investigations, what a segue. We're going to talk about news surrounding Kris Tyson of the MrBeast variety, the MrBeast team, the MrBeast friend group, as he is now trending online for having inappropriate conversations with a minor. Now, when I saw this come out, was I surprised? No, but I need to check myself a little bit on my own personal biases, my own personal blinders in this case. For those of you who are unfamiliar with who Kris Tyson is, he is a best friend of the famous YouTuber, the largest YouTuber in the world, MrBeast. And MrBeast has hundreds of millions of followers. He has hundreds of millions of dollars. Is he a billionaire? Probably. I don't know. I don't know how much his net worth actually is, but he has a lot of money, and he puts on these massive YouTube videos. And Kris has been featured in MrBeast's YouTube videos for a very long time. They've been best friends for a very, very long time. Kris was married, had a child, and decided that was not the life for him. Not necessarily the married father life, but the life of a man in general was not the life for him. He came out as trans and changed his name from Kris with, I believe, a CH to then Kris with a K. And then from there, it became Ava. So now Kris's name is Ava Tyson, and that is what he's being referred to. And people are swapping out the he, him pronouns for the she, her pronouns. Now, this created a lot of turmoil on the internet. There was a group of people that fully accepted Kris turning Ava and said this is a wonderful thing, and MrBeast kept Ava/Kris in the videos, and how wonderful of MrBeast to support his friend. There was another group that said this is wholly inappropriate. How dare you do this when you're a father, when you are married? How dare you be in videos that are, seen by millions, if not, billions of views from children, and have somebody who is going through this transition. It's inappropriate for children. Children shouldn't be exposed to this. And then there was a camp in the middle that was like, I don't care. I'll continue to watch MrBeast videos. Maybe it makes me a little uncomfortable. Maybe it doesn't. Who really cares? It doesn't matter. So this was a massive debate taking place on the internet. Should he maintain his position as a MrBeast friend and be in these videos? MrBeast decided yes. That was put to rest. Now Kris Tyson is back in the news for an alleged relationship with a minor. This minor has now grown out of their minordom. They're 20 years old now. But let's read and get some background before we jump to major conclusions here. There will be a lot of miscommunication that you're going to see about this on the internet. So let me go ahead and say that outright. So here's a tweet. Kris Tyson from MrBeast has been messaging a male minor starting when the minor was around 13 and Tyson was 20 years old. The two constantly joked inappropriately with each other about hentai addiction, which I guess I'll have to explain what that is in a moment to some of you, sending suggestive pics, etc. They confirmed met up together when the minor was 16 years of age. Okay, now there are many YouTube videos about this. One YouTuber who goes by Prism, has some numbers at the end, I think it's Prism42, put out a video about this relationship, doing the investigating, pulling out all the different messages that existed between Kris and this minor, who is known online, or at least their username is LavaGS, and that's how they exist on the internet now. There's also this video from Brion. I hope I'm pronouncing that YouTuber's name correctly. This has 600,000 views, and it was posted 23 hours ago, where they go through some of the conversations and the alleged relationship between this minor and Kris Tyson. So here's one of the screenshots from like a Snapchat. The basic story is here. This young person at the age of 13 won some sort of MrBeast competition. This put him in communication with the MrBeast team and with Kris Tyson. They added each other on Snap. They're active in Discord, all these different channels, talking to one another. And here's like one of the Snapchats as evidence of this weird relationship. It's Kris, photographing himself with American flag behind him, and it says "Coming for America." And of course, the word "coming" is spelled in the sexual way that you can spell that. And now this seems to me like a joke. It's not a joke that I would really be shocked by from any man sending this to another man, to be honest. What makes it weird is that you are an adult sending this to somebody who is a minor. And I get that the lines can be blurred in ways, especially in male relationships, with this idea of like locker room talk and boys being boys, that you can have jokes like this in conversations. And sometimes you might lose sight of the fact that you're talking to a minor. There were other messages where the minor insinuates that he knows that Kris has an addiction to hentai pornography. For those of you that don't know what hentai pornography is, it's like this cartoonish, almost anime-like pornography that has like tentacles involved and all these different things. It's like weird cartoon stuff. Gross, weird, whatever. Doesn't matter. I guess I can't kink shame. It's 2024. You're allowed to do whatever you want to do. This minor apparently knew about that, would make jokes about the fact that Kris had an addiction to that. Don't know whether or not he actually does. When you read the messages, it does sound like this minor is making a joke about it. But why is it that a minor would feel comfortable making a joke like that to a man who is older, with this relationship starting at 13 and starting when he was 20? Now, at one point, Kris posts online something about, you know, if you sign up for my Patreon, I will send nudes to you. And the minor insinuates that he has already, you know, signed up and supporting him to some extent. And again, it's a joke of a sexual nature that is shared between the two of them. That was another strike in many of these YouTube videos that are talking about it. I want to be clear. There are people on the internet who are referring to him as a pedophile, saying that he sexually assaulted a minor, saying that he had a relationship with a minor. None of that is confirmed with any of the allegations that have been made here. I don't think we should take it upon ourselves to label people as pedophiles, sexual assaulters, rapists, anything of the sort, if you do not have evidence for that, okay? We go even further into these claims, which, mind you, I'm admitting right now, inappropriate. You shouldn't have these conversations with minors. For me, it's really reminiscent of the Colleen Ballinger story that we had here on YouTube. Colleen was a very famous YouTuber. She was having conversations with minors that were of a sexual nature. She was making sexual jokes. She was asking them sexual questions. Arguably, her conversations were worse than what we're seeing out of this whole Kris Tyson allegation thing. And in Colleen's case, the minor was the one who came forward and said, Colleen had these inappropriate conversations with me. Now that I look back on it, I see how inappropriate they were. They were posting the screenshots and saying, this is what Colleen did to me. In this case, you have outside people who are making these allegations. Now, you may ask yourself, where's the minor, who's now 20 years old? What does he have to say about this? Well, he has come forward and he has spoken about it. In fact, Keemstar, who really stays up to date with like YouTube drama, a little bit of journalism here and there, actually contacted the minor himself, not a minor anymore, a grown man. We'll call him Lava GS because that's what he goes by on the internet. And here's what was said. MrBeast connected me directly to Lava, the alleged Kris Tyson groomed victim. Now, that's not a good look. You would hope that the person would, like, you'd be able to contact them directly, and it's not through the team of people who is now receiving these allegations, but I digress. MrBeast connects Keemstar to Lava GS. Lava says, quote, I was not groomed by Kris Tyson. I did not meet Kris Tyson by myself. I met Kris and the MrBeast crew with my family present. He goes on to say, I ran a Discord with Kris Tyson when I was 13, and edgy, inappropriate jokes were said. That's it. Okay, so we have the inappropriate jokes that people are running with. They have the meeting, which was a meeting, and I'm going to show this tweet too. They had a meeting and met up with each other when he was 16, which is strange. Why are you, at the time, he would have been like, what, 23 and a half? Why are you 23 and a half meeting up with a 16-year-old? Inappropriate. The jokes are inappropriate. Did anything happen? That's what really matters, at least in a legal sense to me, especially if you're going to accuse somebody of being a pedophile and sexually assaulting somebody. There are these tweets from Kris, too, that he tweets, nothing gets my knob a-cranking like some lolly. And we've spoken about this before. For those of you who don't know what lolly is, I can't believe I'm educating people on hentai and lolly on this channel. But lolly is also animated pornography that features animated children. Not cool. Not appropriate, not fun, not funny, not anything. But again, this is a tweet that could be speculated or, alleged to have been a joke. And that's all the evidence we're getting in this case that's now being sort of made in the court of public opinion against Kris Tyson is statements that could or could not be jokes, and the meeting up of a minor who was 16 that was apparently signed off on by his parents. And again, it takes me back to that Colleen Ballinger case, because the same thing happened with Colleen. These people come out and said we had inappropriate conversations with her. I also met up with her, and there was this whole, back and forth. And in that case, I guess the minor's parents allowed the guy to go to the place where he was supposed to meet Colleen. What is going on? If you're a parent I get that it's cool, like he loves MrBeast, and like it's so cool that you get to like meet these guys that you idolize and you're watching on YouTube, but why are you sending your kid to meet up with somebody who's much older than them? And again, we don't know that anything happened. So far, there's no evidence that anything happened. In fact, the supposed victim in this case is saying that absolutely nothing happened and is defending Kris Tyson. But why are you sending your child who is not old enough to meet up with older guys? And I think with men, maybe the lines might be a little bit more blurred. I don't know. Like you might be more comfortable because you're like, oh, it's a guy, you're a guy, you can go hang out, whatever, it's cool. Supposedly, I guess Kris was bisexual at the time, straight at the time. I think he was bisexual. I think he was out as bisexual. So maybe it's not viewed as being like a weird thing. But to me, if I have a kid and my kid's 16 and my 16-year-old's like, I want to go hang out with somebody who's nearly 24. Why the hell are you talking to somebody who's 24? And how long have you been talking to? Since you were 13. Why do you have messages with somebody who's 20 when you're 13 years old? Why are you cutting it up on the internet and making these inappropriate jokes with them? What I'll say is, inappropriate? Most definitely. Should it be happening? In my opinion, no. Is it illegal? So far, nothing in these allegations is anything that is illegal, and we don't know that anything illegal has happened. And the supposed person who may have experienced any sort of abuse in this case is saying adamantly that they did not experience it. In fact, they just put out a tweet 4 hours ago reading, "These videos are massive lies and twisting the truth." Ava, they're referring to Kris as Ava, because that's what we do these days, 2024, whatever. Ava never did anything wrong and just made a few edgy jokes. I was never exploited or taken advantage of. Can you do me a favor and comment on these videos and tell them to stop spreading lies? This situation takes away from children who are actively being exploited every day online. I am not a victim of anything being claimed in these videos or at all. So I gotta ask, like, what's to be done in this case? And I don't know, YouTube is going through a crazy time right now with creators coming out with very inappropriate relationships with people who are their fans. And I don't know if this was just something that flew under the rug at the time and that nobody was really caring about. And it was just that age of the internet where things were sort of, you know, bowl in a china shop, you can do whatever you kind of want type of thing. You have Colleen Ballinger, who had the inappropriate conversations with minors. You have Cody Ko now, who's being accused of having slept with a 17-year-old Tana Mojo, as well as having another relationship while he was in his 20s with a 17-year-old. You have the Kris Tyson conversations with somebody who was much younger than him when he was 20 years old and on into his early 20s. You have Dr. Disrespect with the inappropriate conversations that he was having with a minor and he admitted to having with a minor. What are y'all doing online? And why can't y'all keep it away from people who are too young for you to be talking to them? I don't know what's going on there. But I will say, with that being said, I have plenty of criticism for the showing of like an open transition to maybe kids who are not ready for that. I have plenty of criticism for a father that chooses to transition when he has a young child, when he has a wife, and the mayhem that just brings into that relationship and into that child's development. Plenty of criticism there. It's a little uncomfortable to watch the journey unfold in these MrBeast videos, and I would think that would be a little strange for kids who are not yet ready to have those conversations. However, I'm not going to jump to the conclusion that this person is a pedophile or a rapist or is sexually assaulting minors unless I have evidence to make that claim. And I see a lot of people who are labeling this person a pedophile on top of all the other, claims that they're making about him. And you shouldn't do that. We can outright say this is very inappropriate and you should not be talking to minors this way. And to make a minor aware of these things and to make them feel comfortable to tell jokes to you in this way is unacceptable. But those are really, really, really big, serious labels: pedophile, sexual assaulter, rapist. Hold them for people who deserve it. And if for some reason we get evidence down the line that he actually is any of those things and it's actually substantiated, then feel free. Have a conversation about it. Be open about it. Be open about your disgust towards those behaviors. But don't, because you feel some type of way about this person, label them as something that we have yet to substantiate. That is all I'm saying. And it's weird that you kind of have to tap tiptoe around this conversation and give disclaimer after disclaimer after disclaimer about what's inappropriate and what's not to say. You shouldn't call people a pedophile when you don't yet know that they're a pedophile, but you shouldn't do that. And I love that as a society, we're all coming together to protect children. And that when we hear these stories about minors that we believe to be being abused or groomed or led down a path of destruction, we call it out and we come after people forcefully, but you have to do so with a very steady hand that is dialed into what's happening. And you have to do so with a deep care for evidence and a deep understanding that people are innocent until proven guilty. And if somebody is guilty at the end of your investigation, you found them. Justice is served, but make sure justice is served in due time with due process. Okay? So that's it. That's the Kris news. And you're going to see a lot of people. You're going to see him being referred to as a pedophile and a sexual assaulter and all these different things. But these are the actual facts. And you can go and watch the YouTube videos. Even in the YouTube videos of people covering this, some people are just adding in their own speculation as to what's happening, mixing it in with the facts of the story, which is a no. You don't do that. You don't do that. So this is not a defense of the behavior. It is just to say, let's be accurate. Please, accuracy really matters, because when real pedophiles show up, when real people who are raping children or manipulating children or really grooming them even more so than what we're seeing in this case, you don't want them to slip through because you're just calling everybody that. Okay? And those are my thoughts on Kris / Ava Tyson. Goodness, what a mess. Can't catch a break. MrBeast is probably like, what the hell am I supposed to do? He already went through the controversy of whether or not, how do I deal with this friend who's transitioning publicly, and I'll keep him in the videos and I'll get a bunch of heat for that and all that. And now it's just like fuel to the fire. But maybe it all starts with not having inappropriate discussions with minors. Maybe. I don't know why it seems to be like we're having a cultural moment where people are waking up to the idea that that's not okay. But it's not. So weird. So much news in that direction. What is going on? Why can't you guys stop talking to kids?
Stop talking to kids, please. Yeah. I mean, what you're saying, I mean, first of all, well said. And it does remind me of how, we criticize the people on the left often who throw around the racist Nazi label. And I think you're right that it undercuts any legitimate criticism that you would otherwise have of the person that you're trying to criticize. And it also waters down those words as they should be referring to the actual people guilty of those things. And so we shouldn't make the same mistake that we've seen with those cases by throwing around the pedophile word too much before we actually have evidence. And that's what separates us, and that's what makes that word I guess have the weight that it has duly when applied in its correct and accurate context. So
yeah,
you nailed it there.
It's such a tough time. I mean, to be a kid on the internet. I remember, like, I obviously didn't grow up like being spoon-fed the internet. I wasn't like an iPad kid. But at the very introduction of the internet into my life as a child was the introduction of grooming. And I think that's the case for more children than it is not the case for children. When you are on any website, there are predatory people who are coming after children. There are people who are unknowingly making very inappropriate content for children. There are people who are engaging with children in an inappropriate way, like in this story here, but are not yet to the deepest understanding of how inappropriate those conversations are. And that seemed to be the through line in the Colleen Ballinger story of, she said, I'm not a groomer, I'm just a loser. Like, I was just a person who didn't understand those boundaries, who thought it was something that was okay to do. And if we're taking her at her word, there are a lot of people who exist in that space and are doing those things. And the introduction of kids to the internet is so often the introduction of grooming. And I cannot stress it enough that if you are a parent and you are giving your child like unfettered access to the internet, there could be grooming taking place. And like, you really need to tamp down on that. You really need to be watching everything that your child is taking in, because there are so many touch points, for lack of a better word, no pun intended, for grooming taking place. If your kid's using Roblox, grooming, it could be taking place right there. If they're on YouTube Kids, grooming could be taking place. If they're on X or Instagram or anything, grooming could be taking place. And a lot of parents will think, oh, your kid's just doing like kid things on the internet. A lot of them are not. And they have no idea. How's a kid going to know that that's what's taking place? So I think we're going to see way more stories out of like the YouTube community, out of the Twitch community, out of all of these different spaces where you're going to see very prominent figures who were prominent in your childhood come out to be having these inappropriate conversations. I don't think this is the last of this at all. In fact, I think we're in like a wide reckoning of realizing how we feel about this behavior at maybe from a time where we didn't feel that way, and it's all just going to come back. So you're going to hear stories of like 10 years ago, this person did this, 5 years ago, this person did this, 13 years ago, this person did this, and it's just going to trickle out as it goes. And a lot of people were doing this very openly, like the whole Cody Ko situation with like sleeping with Tana at 17, however you feel about it. A lot of this was a seemingly pretty open information that existed on the internet, rumors at the very least. Another 17-year-old girl is now, being, I guess, identified, and he was posting videos with her on the internet. But now that we're in 2024 and going, 17, it's just going to be more and more and more. So I wonder what the next story is going to be. And that's all I'll say. We're going to get into your super chats.
Alrighty, let's get into it. Hear from you guys. We've been yapping enough today. Alex Daly was our first super chatter today. Just sent a super chat though, no message, but he is from Australia. So thank you for all the way from Australia tuning in.
Love it. Appreciate it.
Christopher Alcine says, like him or hate him, let's hope Biden rests well after this presidency and that he is happy to achieve what he and Jill wanted after all these years. I can't tell if he's being sarcastic. I
can't tell either. It was hard to know. You know what? I don't wish him any unrest unless it's accountability for actions that he could somehow be aware of at this stage in life. But I don't think that's possible. So wish him the best in all that he's experiencing. I think the cognitive decline is enough turmoil for anybody.
Yeah. I honestly think he'll just largely be forgotten. Like the powers that be, Democratic elite, used him for what they could in this cycle, and no one ever really took him that seriously as a leader, as a president or anything. He was just kind of there, and he got to have his little moment to be president, but it was undercut by all this other stuff going on, and it's okay, whatever, we're moving on. I think it'll be like a forgotten chapter, honestly. But no ill will, I guess, beyond, like you say, accountability for missteps. But anyways, Sarah Grace McGinnis says, I love both of y'all so much. Favorite political podcast. Y'all should do a live show tour around the U.S. with a meet and greet. Keep speaking truth.
That would be so interesting.
I guess we're a political podcast now. There's just so much political news we have to talk about. But
over the past 2 weeks, it's been like a fire hose.
Yeah. Try not to be overly political, but it's kind of inevitable right now.
I can't imagine doing this show with people sitting in front of me. I feel like that'd be crazy.
I think it'd be fun, but it's just, the security issue. It's expensive to set up something, and I don't know. It's just tough, man.
I value my ears.
But I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, great idea. We will at least keep speaking truth, Sarah, and hopefully we'll figure out something to do, meet and greets or something one day.
Yeah.
House of Has says, I like my leaders to cackla. I guess that's like cackala. Like a tarted hyena at foreign governments. Sometimes you need a mom with Down syndrome to bring peace to the world. She's
gosh.
For toss items at, I can't even really make sense of this, but
I get what you're saying.
Being very cavalier with
it is.
the
okay,
R
fair
word
enough.
And other things.
If that's how you feel about her, that's how you feel about her.
Hey, Haley. Sorry, I said that like I'm saying hey to you, but that's the name. Hey, Haley says, hi, Amala. Just wanted to tell you that you're amazing and the kind of woman our generation should be looking up to. Taylor's pretty cool too. Keep doing what you're doing. I'll take pretty cool. Pretty
cool's always good.
Praise.
I'll take pretty cool any day. Thank you so much. That's so sweet.
Ash Roach says, Amala, speaking of the demon, Gavin Newsom, why do you still live in Cali? Truly always been curious. XOXO.
My man has a very good job, and his job keeps him here, and I've got good friends here, good time here. I don't know that I'll always be here, but we shall see. So for right now, it's the place to be because it's the place to be. That's my answer.
01 Gotby says Harris and Michelle Obama ticket. I just can't.
Harris and Michelle Obama?
I don't think they should.
That would be crazy.
It's kind of an open secret that Barack Obama kind of resents Joe Biden, and I can't imagine that like they have a ton of respect for Kamala Harris either as the Obamas. So I don't know that Michelle would subject herself to that.
Oh yeah, that just wouldn't be. I don't know.
It'd be formidable, I will say. Probably be more formidable as a ticket. But
yeah, I'm trying to think like a double woman ticket. Would that make it? I don't know. I don't think so.
Going all in.
I don't think so. Yeah.
Timothy W says, I wanted Tulsi as Trump's VP pick. That would have been great. Y'all should play the video of her going off on Kamala at the DNC debate. Hey, you got your wish.
We got it. Yeah. I like Tulsi too. She's got a lot of good stuff going on. I thought like that angle of her like having been on the left and left it would be a really strong thing in a VP to like sort of convince that group of people that's not satisfied with the left yet, but doesn't want to vote for the right, you know? So, but I guess we got JD Vance. I just watched Hillbilly Elegy on Netflix. Went and chose to watch it. It was all right. It was okay. It's an okay movie.
Yeah, I heard the movie wasn't actually very well liked by critics, at least, besides the acting. But the book was a bestseller.
Yeah, it wasn't a very well put together movie, I will say. I did notice that right out of the gate. But there were some strong performances. The woman who played his grandmother, Glenn Close, I think she did really well. I think Amy Adams played his mom. Strong acting. But yeah, it's pretty good.
I wonder if Biden had dropped out before Trump had picked a VP, would he still have gone with JD? I think probably. But that's kind of interesting to think about. Like, since he's got to run against something else, does he need to take a more,
more strategic pick?
Yeah, pick.
Yeah, but I don't know. I did not see that pick. I did not see the JD Vance thing coming, to be honest. I guess in that it was not the choice that I would have made, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, I kept hearing that it might be, but it didn't really make sense to me, and then it just was. And I was like, okay, well, whatever.
Here we are. Yeah.
Tim Quattrocchiotti says, she does have a scary laugh, though. She should have been one of the hyenas in The Lion King.
It is quite it's a doozy, that laugh. I wonder if if they'll work on that. Because, they're very meticulous about crafting candidates. So I wonder if that'll be some sort of training she goes through to make her laugh more palatable. I would not be surprised if that is actually happening.
Yeah, me neither. But yeah, like if she's rehearsing for dinners and stuff, they've got her behind. But it's just like the more training you do, does it make it even less authentic than she already is, which is already like extremely
tough.
Authentic.
Yeah.
So, she did that skit recently with Taraji P. Henson and the BET, and that was so cringe.
Yeah, I wish I could show you guys that again, but they will take it from us if we do.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, awful.
So yeah, she's got some work to do. Miss Stanford says instead of Kamala for president, we need an Amala. And VP Taylor, of course.
Absolutely not, guys.
Just wait.
You'll never see me.
11 years.
I sit on the sidelines and I talk about it. That's about it. That's about all you're gonna get from me is Japanese.
More Jelly Toast just sends a little emoji that says wrecked, R-E-K-T.
Nice.
Which I appreciate as a gaming term. Thank you, More Jelly Toast. Andre says, hi, Amala. I stand with Trump. Hope he wins and becomes a worldwide phenomenon. If he's not a worldwide phenomenon already.
Yeah, right. I think he is. He is maybe in a more infamous sense than a famous sense. But yeah, we will see. I think he'll pull through. I just don't know who's the Democratic ticket's going to be. So hard to say.
Victoria Rosa Duke just sends a super chat, no message from Canada. Thank you, Victoria.
Appreciate it.
VJ95 says, so there was a fire at the First Baptist Church in Dallas, the original sanctuary built in 1890. I have my suspicion of the cause, but nothing has been reported yet.
Huh. I don't know who would be an arsonist, a random arsonist setting fire to a church. I haven't heard about that either.
I have seen a lot of stories coming out of Europe, like France and maybe the UK, about fires in churches started by potentially related to mass migration in some way or shape or form, but
Love that.
I don't know that that's what's going on in Texas necessarily.
Right.
Let's see here. Sarah says, I've been watching from the start. Trump is good at getting along with Putin. Hope Trump wins to avoid war. Love from Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the major things he's running on. Is he's like a no conflict type presidency. So, I mean, it was true during the first term. We'll see about the second. I agree.
Yeah, getting along is like an interesting, choice of words. Like in one sense, maybe it's getting along in the sense that you're not getting an open conflict, but it's also in the sense that you're coming to the table in a position of strength that demands respect.
Yeah.
That keeps foreign powers, which are inferior militarily to you, in place. Whereas if you come with a more sheepish demeanor, then they're emboldened and do stuff like invade neighboring countries.
Yep.
All kind of mess. So.
Oops.
Let's see. Victoria. This is Victoria's second super chat. Says, I'm from Canada and I want to know if you guys have advice on making friends in a super liberal country. I lost my friends because I'm conservative.
Ooh, tough one. I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think like where would conservatives be? It's kind of tough. I would make friends in things that are outside of your political ideology, hobbies that you share, things you like to do, and that's one thing. I think in the pursuit of that, yes, you'll make friends that you don't agree with ideologically, but through those hobbies, you're bound to find a person or two that agrees with you, and slowly but surely, they'll find themselves. You'll find each other. You'll like pop up and figure it out. Other than that, I don't know. I would say like, are there like political clubs or like fun things you can go to? But like, are those typically, I don't know, those are the most fun things to endure on any given day?
Yeah, I'm not sure. But I echo your advice. A lot of my biggest friend group when I lived in LA was people I played beach volleyball with. And I had a good friend group through church. So if you're religious, that can be a great place to meet people.
Right.
And through working in the space I'm in, I met more people in my speed politically, but that didn't matter that much, honestly. It was more, I had a full social life just based on the other two. So anyway, best of luck out there in Canada. I know it's crazy.
Yes, tough one.
Sasha O'Neill says, hey guys, have you considered being live on Rumble too? Also, early congrats on 2 million subscribers. Keep up the good work and lovely week ahead to all.
Oh, thank you.
That's going to happen the next couple of days.
Yeah. 2 million is right around the bend. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, I've thought about Rumble. We can, have we looked into adding Rumble? We can.
Yeah, we looked into it at one point. At one point, we were like talking to them about doing some kind of deal, and that kind of fell through. And and it's just like, do we go on there just to go on there? And I don't know. We could.
We'll see. We can add it to our deck. If you guys are if you guys are Rumble users and you want us on Rumble, we'll see what we can do.
We also got to see about their like monetization and stuff, because it's good for us to keep it all in one place on YouTube if it's spread out, and hopefully they can still monetize. But anyways, we'll look into it in a minute. Legitly Spelunking says, the left always says believe the victims until the victim confirms nothing happened, innocent until proven guilty, but I do agree it's pretty weird.
Yeah, let me think about well, I guess in this case, it's not really necessarily the left that's going after Kris. It seems to be more right-leaning people coming after him, which is obviously concerning. We're seeing like, as the structure shifts, like people who are not really keeping true to the things that they preach, which is really interesting. A lot of these people you would have formerly heard say innocent until proven guilty. And now, because I'll be honest, a lot of them are doing it because he's trans. So they're saying, oh, you're trans, which means you're automatically a pervert. And now that I'm hearing this story, this means X, Y, and Z. But admittedly, the conversations are inappropriate. Does it signal that you're a predator? So far, no evidence in that direction. It just signals that you are inappropriate. So very, very tough. But you can sort of sense an energy among a few people. I'm not going to say all, that like the reason they feel so passionately that they're coming after this person is because the underlying assumption is that trans people are predators. And that is not always the case. Sometimes it is the case, but it's not always the case.
Yeah, just be intellectually honest, man. Like you are so much more like powerful as a person and a communicator and a critic if you can control your own biases and not be overcome by them and swept up by them into acting in bad faith when you are discussing issues. And if you're able to stick to facts and if you're able to stick to logic and not go beyond that, beyond where the evidence that you have to support your claims and not, resort to ad hominems and just crapping on people that you don't like just because people are piling on them or whatever. Like, and if you're able to demonstrate principle, people will respect you, take you much more seriously. Your words will carry more weight. So, hopefully we stay on that in that lane here as much as we can. And that doesn't mean you don't criticize people when they deserve it, but it just means you only do it when they do deserve it and don't go beyond that.
Yeah. And I'm just like, how much do you want to, if it comes out and he's actually a predator and like he's doing all these horrible things or whatever, be the first to condemn him. You don't have to ask me twice. But when you have the actual like victim that everybody's using right now being like, hey, this is actually not what's happening. Can you please stop? Can you please stop? This did not happen. This did not happen. This did not happen. Maybe we should chill out. Just maybe.
Here. Gina Leon says, I was very happy to see young people, or I am very happy to see young people who are so passionate about protecting children's lives and innocence. Thank you guys. God bless you.
Oh yeah, 100%. I'm like, if you are committing crimes against children, under the jail. Peace. That's a net positive in my opinion, but that has to be substantiated. I don't want to go falsely putting people under the prison, guys. It's a no-no. That's something only Kamala Harris does. Sorry.
Hey.
JK, guys, don't come for me.
Well, I mean, we need to like investigate that story further, but that may actually not be JK.
For right now,
turns out to be actually what happened.
For right now, JK, but maybe not later.
Christopher Alcide again says, I need to know, was it wrong for me to laugh about the naked woman lying on the ground outside yelling at herself?
Everything can be laughed at. I'm a proponent of comedy in all cases. I don't think there's something you can't joke about. And a lot of people don't like that, but that's what I believe.
Yeah, like if you're sitting there watching someone wallow in misery and your instinct is to just point at them and laugh, then that's one thing. But if it's like,
that's strange.
As an example of how bad California is, Amala invokes that in that way, then yeah, I mean, it's funny because it's so crazy and unexpected and outlandish.
Right.
So
100%.
You can cackle away just like Kamala if you like. Alex Daly says, as a trans who converted from leftist to a very much center-right, I'm worried about the leftist culture is creating an increase in the groomers in Australia using the gender ideology as a shield to go undetected for these times, for these crimes.
Yeah, 100%. It's happening, which is why, like, oh my gosh, it's so important that we are very, very sure when we make these claims and we talk about it, because there are predatory men who are finding themselves within the trans umbrella as a means of making it easier to be predators and to abuse women, children, boys, men, all these different things. And they're abusing the system. J.K. Rowling speaks at length about this, and that's a big part of why she's really campaigning and being a part of the movement in the way she is because there are predators who are taking advantage of this. So you have to be very, very clear about that. And it's a huge issue, and it's going to continue to be a huge issue. And make no mistake, there is often a perverse link to the trans identity. Like, these things don't just like pop out of nowhere. And oftentimes perversion, abuse, different sexual stimuli that you receive either in development or in adulthood can lead you down the path of believing you have a different gender identity. And that is not to be skipped over in the conversation. It's just to say we have to confirm these things prior.
Ahu ATL says, any thoughts on Kyle Gass deleting his apology from social media?
Oh, I didn't know that he deleted his.
I did see that happen, yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter to me. The world
he probably didn't mean it, but he did the right thing in issuing the apology in the first place, as far as like the obligatory thing, I guess.
Yeah. All the people who needed to see it saw it, Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like he didn't retract it. He just deleted it, which just shows he's disingenuous, but doesn't I don't know. It's whatever at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I was thinking the other day, like, one thing that the internet does, and maybe I'll try to make this into a video of essay of some sort, is that like our world was never meant to be like this. Like apologies were never meant to last, you know, in perpetuity or any moment. Like all of the things that I'm saying to you right now are not meant to last beyond this moment really, but because it's on the internet, this lasts forever. So like we weren't meant to have every single moment of our life, every single apology, every single happy moment, every single cry filmed and posted on the internet for us to view when we're 90 years old. But now that's where we are. And I wonder what that does to moments, how it changes the way we live life and how we judge people and all these different things. And I don't know the answer to that, but I don't care. You know, delete what you want to delete, post what you want to post. It's already crazy that these things will live on for the rest of my life. And now what I've just said is now my digital footprint. Wild. Excuse me while I archive all previous episodes.
Delete. Kris Tyson and delete all my old tweets. I think you just did that. This is the last one today from Balancing Scrubs books and something else got cut off. Got to catch the end of the live. I'll vote Trump.
Oh,
so based on watching this live,
yeah. Did we influence you in that direction, or are you already going to do that? I'm very curious to hear that now.
A fitting. Oh, there's a couple more who trickled in here.
Okay, sure.
Say fitting final super chatter would have been, because tomorrow's video is going to be about something right up in that topic. But I guess stay tuned for a few more minutes while we get to these last few super chats, and then I'll tease it. Evans Wonderland says, as someone who was gay for a long time, since 14, and ISAS groomed online and in person, but now don't want to be gay anymore. Do you have any advice? I've never been in a relationship.
Ooh, wow. Okay, this is a huge question. Let me really pause for a second and pull together my thoughts. You said you were somebody who was groomed and came out gay and now is saying you don't want to be gay anymore.
I don't know that he even came out. But I guess.
Read it one more time. Sorry, I want to make
someone who was. It's kind of misspelled too. So as someone who was gay for a long time, since 14, and was groomed online and in person, but now I don't want to be gay anymore. Do you have any advice? He's never been in a relationship.
I have somebody that could talk about this far better than I will talk about it in this moment. But what I will say right out of the gate is you are not held to anything in this life. And if you change your mind on anything, you change who you're attracted to in one direction, who you're attracted to in the other direction, and you want to be something that you are not currently today, you can do that. And you shouldn't let anybody tell you, you know, who you have to exactly be held to or what it is that you have to do with your life. And on this particular topic of like sexual attraction to the same sex or to the opposite sex and a lot of these different things, I don't think we give enough credence to the fact that our sexual experiences in life and the things that we're exposed to, be it through like natural exposure or through grooming exposure and things like abuse, they really can alter the pathways and how we view things, and it's particularly how we express our sexuality. So if for some reason you're coming to a crossroads and thinking, oh, am I really identifying with this thing that I identified with for quite some time? Ask yourself the question and explore, and know that whatever answer you come to is totally fine and valid. And, you know, these people who say you're born a certain way and this is exactly what your sexuality is, I don't think that's true, personally. Go on your own journey with that. Decide if you think that's true. I don't think it's true. I think we're like an amalgamation of nurture and nature, and things can change. And specifically with men, I think a lot of men experience abuse. A lot of men don't feel comfortable talking about that abuse. A lot of men don't even recognize that they've been abused. And I want to give time, since you've so openly, and thank you for that, spoken about your experience, let you know it's awesome that you're talking about it out loud and you're being honest about the thoughts that it can open up within your mind that a lot of men are not able to express. And I think it's something that a lot of them struggle with. It's okay in any form as a man to have curiosity, to wonder if your sexuality is different than what you've been told it is, or what somebody assumes it is, or whether or not you're straight. Especially when you've experienced something like abuse, which then opens up this whole new line of questioning of, you know, did I put out something that asked for that behavior? Am I actually gay because of what happened to me? All of these different things. Allow yourself to ask Ask those questions, but know that like that moment in your life does not need to define everything else going forward. Right. It doesn't need to define you. And there's just so many men, I think, that have gone through abuse in childhood, in adulthood, and then it then goes on to dictate so much more of their life. And it really creates like a little bit of a psychological torment in them of questioning who they actually are and what their sexuality is. And you do not have to let that define you at all.
Yeah, well said. I don't have anything to add other than like, yeah, you don't have to be drugged by the foot through life based on abuse that you have received. And so that's not a judgment saying you should do one thing or the other. It's just that you should process what you've gone through in a healthy manner so that it doesn't dictate your behavior, so that you're acting out some kind of dysfunction based on something that was done to you. You want to make sure that you're living your life on your own terms and not as a product of negative experiences that have happened to you. And that goes for things outside sexuality as well. So yeah, we could all do with a little therapy in that regard.
Yeah, I saw like when I watched Baby Reindeer for the first time, that really popular Netflix show where he describes his sexual assault and then all the thoughts that just like tormented him after it. I can't imagine how many people are struggling through that every day, and they're struggling in silence, like not being able to say it out loud because they're scared of what people will assume about them or what it means about them. Whatever it means, it's okay. And you should be able to talk about it. And the fact that somebody put you through that and now it becomes your torment, it's just a whole nother, like issue and problem. But yeah. Anyways, all that to say, that's what I would
big day of
personally
news,
say.
Big question to open up.
Yeah, big question.
Super chat segment at the end of the show. But I like that you can be that honest, and I'm here for it. So thank you. Evans, it was. Okay, a couple more came in here. This is Alex Daly says, being able to identify as trans should be highly gatekept, should be a hard life choice to make that comes with a lot of sacrifices like giving up a career in athletics, etc. Should only ever be a last resort to gender dysphoria.
Yeah, and I think that's where a lot of countries are coming to that same conclusion. We talk about that, France, Finland, Germany, Sweden have all decided it is a last resort measure, and it's not ever something to be pushed on to minors. And it's like the whole like gay conversation, the trans conversation takes on a very similar sentiment of like, I was born this way, and ever since I came out of the womb, this is who I was. I'm sorry, but I don't believe it. I think it's just your experiences that lead you that way. Now, once you are something, or like there's like this deeply held like conviction and like move towards that thing, it's very hard to work your way out of it. I'm going to be the first to admit that. And at a point, once you reach like a point of whatever we'll call it, maybe no return with behavior, you might as well have been, I guess, born that thing, given that you are the product of your experiences. But on a much deeper level, I don't think that's how people are born. I think it becomes just something that befalls you based on your experience. And that doesn't also make it a choice. A lot of people will confuse me saying, I don't think you were born that way, with saying, I think you chose this life. Well, if we're the amalgamation of our experiences and we become something based on all these external and internal stimuli, how much of that is choice? I don't know. Then you're getting into like determinism and free will and all these greater conversations that, quite frankly, we don't have the time for today. But yeah, it's hugely up for debate. So all these people who give you like these like staunch answers of I was born this way or it's a choice or whatever, I'm like, okay, let's do more exploring than that, because quite frankly, I don't know.
Yeah. Naomi Davies just says, maybe trolls in the chat from TikTok. Are there trolls in the chat?
Are there trolls in the chat? I feel like we always have trolls in the chat.
There's a couple.
On this show.
As long as people aren't spamming and generally, being in good faith, I don't ban anybody. But anyway, sorry if there's trolls, guys.
Right.
And then one more blank one from V4L3, just sending some super chat love from Canada.
Oh, appreciate that. Dope. We got our Canadians in the chat today being real active. Yeah. Love y'all. Is that the last one?
Yeah, I think that was our last one.
Oh, guys, heavy stuff in the super chats today. I hope I articulated that perfectly, but maybe I don't know. I think the more, I feel like it's come up a few times on this show. Maybe I need to actually dedicate like a very well written, to the T video on my thoughts on it, because I don't know. I think it's a conversation that needs to be had more, especially since we are having so many conversations about grooming and abuse, and through my own experiences in life, all the people that I've known in life who have gone through similar experiences, all falling under this umbrella. It's something that I think needs to be talked about way more openly than it is, because we're finding out about these things like years later rather than like nipping them in the bud as we have the conversation. And we often talk about these things through the lens of what should we do to the perpetrators. And I think we've generally come to a consensus that it's not okay behavior and that these people need to be dealt with. I don't think we talk enough about the impact that it has on the people who experience it. And they're left in a confused state of knowing that something happened to them and knowing that that thing was wrong, but not knowing how their body's going to deal with it, how their mind's going to process it. So maybe we should talk about that a lot more. Guys, that's the end of our show. Let me know if I should make a video about this. I saw a few.
I gotta shout out Amir. Just popped by in the chat. Just sending some heart emojis. What's up, Amir? Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks, Amir. Happy to have you here. We need to have you back on the show soon. So maybe we'll find a good topic and we can come on and discuss that together. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, click the notification bell to be notified every single time we're live. That's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern. Plus, we post videos for you guys every single day. Tomorrow's video is another in our He's Right series, which actually we did a He's Right about Amir Odom. So it's very interesting that he showed up in today's chat. This next He's Right is featuring a familiar face. His name is Charli Chan. He made a video about how he's going to be voting for Donald Trump, and he spoke about why. And I'll be telling you why I am in a little bit more detail. So keep an eye out for that. Leave your thoughts in the comments when that video comes out. And with that, guys, have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.